Why your RV can become your second home in case of an emergency. That's what we're going to be talking about in Staying on the Road today. And then, before we get into that, we're going to be looking at enjoying the RV life, how to live in an RV on your property. And that does tie in very well with our Staying on the Road section. And then money tip number 2 and 3, which we missed last episode. We talked about it, but we never got into it. And then next up, we're going to visit the 10 must-see historical sites in the Western U.S. We could call it the West Coast, but they're not all on the coast. Get the picture, though? And then RV Envy, we're going to talk about shower heads, simple upgrades that have some pretty cool features. This is Eric Stark with the Smart RVer Podcast, delivering the smarts you need to enjoy the freedom of the RV lifestyle without the fear of breaking down. Now let's talk everything RV. Today is episode 163. That was a mouthful. So let's dig right into it. So Alexis, you're ready to go today?
I am ready.
As always.
As always.
Fired up, ready to go.
You know it.
Talk about RV stuff, things.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. Okay.
Listen to Eric complain and rant about stuff. That's right. So before we get into any of the the wonderful things we're going to be talking about today, on December 20th, that's going to be the last episode of this year. Not permanently, just of this year. And in that episode, we are going to record it for video. We'll still have the audio, of course, but the video will probably be much better. We've got some plans for that. It's going to be at least an hour long. So just something to look forward to. We're going to wrap up the entire year into one episode. So we're going to go back over some things, the takeaways from the year, if you will. So it's really something to look forward to. Now, before we get into enjoying the RV life, I got one more little thing. You know, I've said it a million times. Well, maybe not a million. I think it was 999,000 times. Right. Not quite a million yet. I exaggerated there about buying a new RV. If you buy a new RV, you have to really make sure that RV is checked before you ever sign the contract. It's not checking it without you there. It's checking it with you there. Now, all the dealerships say they do a pre-delivery inspection. That's funny.
That is funny.
You know, there it is. There's the RV. Okay,
yep,
now you're going to take delivery on it. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Sign here, please. That'll be $150,000. Now get out. All right, so here's the reason why I bring this up. Somebody bought a Tiffin Class B motorhome, and I'm not knocking Tiffin here. These things happen. So the customer bought it from a dealer in Arizona, drives it to Montana. The dealer in Arizona, everything's good. It was all checked out. Well, that wasn't the case. He gets to Montana, and besides some typical little issues, there's water leaks. And one of them, when you turn the pump on or hook it up to city water, man, it's like a water flood. He sent me a video of just water pouring out of this. It was just a water line. It wasn't clamped properly. That was one of several leaks, but that was the worst one. And they didn't check this thing. Mm-hmm. They didn't hook it up to water. If they did, they cleaned it up and dried it out and said, oh, here you go, sir, you know. So the guy now is in this bind, and Tiffin says, we'll pay for it. Just take it wherever you want and so forth. So it makes it easier for the guy. But it wasn't cool. Just a big hassle. He happened to drive it back, didn't put water in it or anything, but he should have checked it out before he ever bought it. But he was assured everything was good. So that's why when you buy a new RV, please take the time to check everything out before you ever sign the contract. If the dealer won't do that first, then say goodbye. Mm-hmm. And keep this in mind. There will always be another great deal. No matter how great of a deal you think you're getting, there'll be another one. No matter how wonderful that floor plan is, that same floor plan is available at other dealerships. You don't have to buy that RV. Don't get emotional. Don't fall in love with it until everything's the way it should be. When you sign the contract, everything's good, then fall in love with it. Mm-hmm. Don't let your emotions dictate a purchase. It can be devastating. We don't want to do that.
No.
That's it, I think. I probably have more, but I'm just going to stick with that one.
There we go.
Just one solid piece of advice. Well, all my advice is solid. So
it is.
Well, this is par for the course. All right. Now that's going to bring us to enjoying the RV life. And we're going to be talking about how to live on your RV, or how to live in an RV on your property. Then we're going to follow it up with money-saving tip number 2 and 3. So, Alexis, what points from this article that you put on our website at the smartrver.com under the heading of Enjoying the RV Life, did you find it would be very important for someone to know if they're going to have someone live on their property?
Right.
Or they're going to live on their property in an RV.
Right. So say you've gotten some land, whatever way you did that. It's on your property, whether you're going to be building later or you're just going to live in your RV for long term. This is kind of catering to both. Usually what happens, though, at least around here, is people do live in their RV first on their property and then build an actual, brick and mortar, however that works. Stone and
brick
whatever.
And mortar, that's it.
The 3 little pigs, I don't know.
The 3 little pig now.
Maybe you'll make it out of hay, yeah. For me, I think the first thing I would think about, other than legal requirements, hopefully you don't have a scary HOA, but you can read more about that. But I would think like safety and comfort first. So in Montana, it gets cold fast. So we have to think about, okay, how are we going to winterize this thing? How are we going to keep everything from freezing? So that would be on the checklist first for me. And then safety. Make sure all your locks are working properly, everything's up to date, and if you're going to be out there, depending on where it is, maybe put a camera system up just so you can watch. It doesn't have to be expensive, to do that. One thing a couple of our friends have done is they've created outdoor living spaces, which is pretty cool. They've actually built a deck and it's enclosed outside of their RV. So it really extends that living space, making it bigger, making it easier to live in. They do their grilling out there. So it basically serves as like a kitchen, an extension of their kitchen. So that's pretty cool. And then you're going to have to embrace minimalism. You're going to, depending on where you came from, you're going to this very small space. So organization is key. Having just what you need is key. Maybe you have other things in a storage space, but really just have what you absolutely need in your RV.
Right. That's very good. And, keep in mind, some people are, like Alexis said, building and they're living in their RV for a year or two. Other people just buy property, want to live in their RV.
That's fine.
So in either case, you could build a shed, or if you're building a house, build your garage first. And
sure.
Actually move the RV into the garage or something.
Which would be great.
But, she brought out a good point. Like in Arizona where it gets hot, you have to think about that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get by with just fans.
No.
In Montana, when it gets cold, it gets cold. So RVs don't do well in that. So you have to prepare for that.
That's right.
It's kind of an all-in deal on that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't, even with, they're warned.
Right. And they don't do it in time.
Come January, it's, 8 degrees and they're panicking because they're not prepared.
Yeah. And they're cold.
Right. Water lines are frozen and everything's breaking. And what do we do? What do we do,
Yeah.
So living in an RV on your property can be very cool, especially if you're building a house or you just want to minimize your expenses. You have a piece of land and maybe it's paid for. You buy an RV, move it on there. Life gets pretty inexpensive that way. Very simplified. So it's definitely a way to enjoy an RV, save some money.
Yep.
Change of pace, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, along with that, living in an RV on your property can save some money as well. Oh, wait, before we go on that, it also might be a situation where a family or friends have to live in an RV. Maybe it's their RV on your property.
Yeah, could be that.
So there's, these tips, maybe you think, well, that'll never happen to me. I'll never be there. But maybe someone will have to live on your property in their RV. So these tips might help in that.
Absolutely.
So don't download them and print them today, but you can go to our website anytime, always there, under the Enjoying the RV Life. Now, money-saving tip number 2 and 3. This kind of ties in with the time of year it is, that's for sure. So tip number 2 is travel during the off-season. So we're in the winter months or going into it, ever how you want to look at this. Camping can get expensive when you're paying campgrounds. A lot of campgrounds reduce their rates during the wintertime. Kind of like if you live, let's say, Southern California, you want to stay at all the nice hotels in Palm Springs. Well, you don't go in the wintertime when they're busy.
Right.
You go in the summertime, get the, 5-star hotel for the 1-star price, So it's the same with RV parks. less people, it's less expensive. So you go where the seasons are, okay to do it, where you're not going to be wishing, what am I doing here? It's in Montana. Yeah, it's cheap in the wintertime here, but you got to be adjusted for the wintertime. Mm-hmm. So any money savings would go into keeping your RV warm, so it wouldn't really do much. So it's going someplace where it makes sense to be, but yet it's going to be cheaper. So traveling during the off season too, there's some benefits to that. You don't have to deal with all the crowds.
Yep.
You can go to places where normally it'd be a bunch of people, not as many people. Sometimes not as much stuff is open, but it might not matter depending on what you're doing. So it's just something to check into, to think about. You can go to campgrounds or go online, look at them where you might want to go, invest a little time and see when the rates drop, and maybe that's the time you want to go. And you can even time it. Sometimes they just have a cutoff date.
Yep.
Yeah, like September 30th is the end of summer. Now we're going into our winter rates.
Mm-hmm.
So you go October 1st, might save you a ton of money just postponing it by a day.
Right.
Or a week or whatever.
Right.
Now, the other thing, too, is this is money-saving tip number 3, improving your gas mileage. Now, we all know gas no matter what, even when it's $1.50 a gallon, $2 a gallon, $3 a gallon, $9 a gallon, whatever it is, it costs extra money. We hate paying for gas, especially when we're traveling. And some people, like I, have a truck that doesn't get good mileage no matter what. And so it just is what it is. I don't worry about it. But if I can save some money, I certainly will. I'm not going to be stupid about it.
Right.
So it's checking out your vehicle. Maybe you have a motorhome, or maybe you have a truck you're towing a trailer with, or maybe you have a car you're towing a trailer with. Make sure everything's up to snuff in the vehicle. Your air filter's clean. Your tires are aired up properly. The tires on the trailer are aired up properly. You've kept up on your maintenance, tune-ups, those type of things. Anything that's going to affect your mileage, you want to fix and make it better. Because, you might think, well, it's a little extra money, but every time you fill up, that maybe it's $5 or $7 per fill up that you're kind of wasting because something's not running right or not the way it should be. Mm-hmm. That can add up over a trip. All of a sudden it's $100. Maybe I would pay for the groceries. Yeah, pay for the groceries. I didn't say for a week.
Right.
$100. Yeah. What? That's 2 people at the grocery store today for one meal?
Mm-hmm. Maybe if you're eating ramen, it would be different.
There you go. So if you're a college student, then it's cool. You eat ramen. Yeah. So just make sure your vehicle's in good shape mechanically. Your oil's been changed, transmission service, all those things that are going to help the mileage. Don't get carried away. Spend $1,000 on some space age trick that's going to give you, 9 million miles to the gallon. That's probably going to be a waste of money.
Yeah.
But just make sure everything's good and save some money by saving some gas. Improve your mileage. Mm-hmm. All right, Alexis. So now we're we're at the end of enjoying the RV life. So there's some takeaways here. Takeaway number 1. Can we get a drum roll, please? There we go. Make sure it's legal and can be done. So if you're having somebody live on your property, you're going to live on your property, make sure it's legal. Yeah. Otherwise, you get all set up and they boot you out. Someone will turn you in. You got a neighbor that hates you.
It happens.
We all got a neighbor that hates us, right?
That's right.
And then takeaway number 2, when planning, think ahead. If you're going to be building a space on a property, whether you're living there, going to be living there, or building a house, make sure that RV space, you think about it, where it's at, how you're going to run utilities to it. So down the road, you're not redoing it or wishing it wasn't there. Maybe you got to start all over again. And then number 3, look at the pros and cons to living in an RV long term. That could be a good thing or a really bad thing. Mm-hmm. All right. So now YouTube. I've been bringing it up, but I have to thank everybody first. Last week we got 100 new subscribers overnight.
It's great.
So I don't know what happened. Maybe it's like voting these days. You get the last 100,000 in last 5 minutes of the elections. I don't know. But keep going to our YouTube channel. Let everybody to subscribe to it. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Yeah, we got some ways to go here, but we're hopeful. We're going to keep plugging away at this. At least till the end of the year, then we'll just give up on it and close the doors and move on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just kidding. All right. So we appreciate everything you guys do for us when you subscribe and recommend us to other people. We really do. All right. Now we're going to go to staying on the road. So now this staying on the road is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. It's not so much as RV maintenance. It's a little out of the ordinary for us. Now, 2 days ago, there was an election in the United States. The world's still here. The United States is still here.
Still living.
It's not on fire. People aren't getting killed in the streets. It's just amazing. None of that stuff happened that everybody was predicting. Now, it might come in the next few weeks. I don't know. But right now, things are good. So that really got me thinking about, there's so much doom and gloom in the world today. There's so many people are looking at the bad of everything that can happen. And that's okay because that's what they do. And there's people, that prep. And now I'm not a prepper. Alexis, are you a prepper?
Not really.
Closet prepper?
Closet, maybe.
You need to tell everybody now?
I ain't telling. Here. I ain't telling.
So we're not preppers, and there's nothing wrong with prepping. If somebody wants to prep and get, do all that, that's absolutely fine. But I do think most people, and not most people, everybody should be prepared. Situations can change in a heartbeat. It can be normal one day and the next day it's not. Something went wrong. And we have some things that have kind of shown that to us lately. Power going out, internet outages, banks not be able to give you your money, things like that. So what do you do? Are you prepared for that? Do you have something to get you through for a few days at least? We're not talking about hunkering down in the forest for 6 months or a year or something. Unless you want to do that. That's cool. That'll work too.
Whatever you like.
Exactly. We're easygoing. FEMA, they have recommendations for being prepared. And 3 to 5 days has kind of been the norm. It's probably changing now. I don't know if they're going to recommend it because they'd probably admit defeat on their part. But, having some essential items, like water, food, medicines, many RVers are taking meds of some kind. They got ailments. Let's face it, a good chunk of RVers are older. Do you have a medication that you have to take every day? And do you have a supply of those that would get you through a situation maybe where you couldn't get any new prescriptions? So you're going to be on that one prescription for several days or a couple weeks, something like that. Would you be able to do that without it becoming a disaster, a life and death situation? So, and I know sometimes it's hard to get prescriptions in advance, but that's where like Jace Medical comes in. I think they can help with that.
Yes, they can.
So that's an option, but planning ahead on that. Oh, and also, that reminds me, Alexis talked about cameras and enjoying the RV life on your property.
Yes. Eufy,
EUFY, they have some great cameras, reasonable prices.
Right.
In fact, when they have sales, the cameras are really cheap.
Nice.
And they're, you can get them solar powered, so they don't have to be wired in. So walls are in the sun, they'll charge up. So you can literally just set it someplace.
Perfect.
And then you can watch it on your phone.
Yeah. I like
you had a new hobby. You got something to do while you're living on your property now. But they work anywhere. You don't have to just put your RV on your property. Now back to this. Back to what we were talking about. So there's things that can happen. You can have a hurricane. You can have a natural disaster. You can have a light go out like we just had in our studio.
It happens.
Okay, so things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
In an instant, we just lost a light. Our life is changing dramatically.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so we don't have a 3 to 5 day supply of lights, so we got a problem. But no one will die, that's for sure.
No one.
All right, so anyway, being prepared, there's nothing wrong with it. And recently there was an internet outage, or actually there's been quite a few, and some have been very major. And you think about that, if the internet is down, how are you going to get money out of the bank if you don't have any cash on you?
Yep.
For a day, it's one thing, but if it's going to go on like after a hurricane like Helene, or what was the other one, Morton, or Billy Bob that went through and wiped everybody out as well, followed right up, was it? Morton?
I think it was, I don't know.
Morton Salt.
That's what I was thinking.
So anyways, those people are stuck without power for weeks. no internet, no power, and they might be able to get someplace to get some internet, but will that give them money? You have to go to the bank and get the cash, and they all run on the internet. They don't run on phone lines anymore like the old days.
Mm-mm.
So do you have some cash on hand? If you have more than $5,000, send us your address. No, just kidding. But have some money on hand, cash, real American green cash. And don't have just like 50s and 100s. Have 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. If you need a quart of milk and all you got is a $50 bill, do you really think you're going to get change for that?
No.
That quart of milk shouldn't cost you $50.
Yeah.
So you got to be smart about that.
Mm-hmm.
When times like that happen, sometimes people aren't always that fair and honest either. So, be smart with your cash as well. Don't flip it all out at one place.
No kidding.
So supply chains can fail. There was that dock worker strike on the East Coast, which didn't last very long, but that would have shut down the supply chain. So supply chain problems or issues can create serious problems for us. So now that really takes us to the RV. We've covered how bad things can get and, some of the things you have to do to be prepared.
Right.
So that's where your RV comes in. And that's what can be important. Now, an RV, you think, well, it's in storage, or how would I live in it when it's 120 degrees outside, or how would I live in it when it's 20 degrees outside? Mm-hmm. That might be the only option you have. Let's say there's a massive windstorm, which we had some here recently. Trees fell on homes. Maybe you're going to be out of your house for 2 or 3 days until your insurance gets it together. Maybe your bank went down, your credit card's not working, so you can't go get a motel. So you got to live someplace. And, maybe you've made all your neighbors mad at you and they don't like you anymore.
Oopsies.
And they say, nah, you're not staying here. And they remind you have an RV. So your RV might be your option, Or maybe your neighbors are all stinky and smelly. You don't want to stay with them, so you just stay in your RV, whatever it might be. But that RV might not seem like much, or might not seem like the most practical thing to live in. But if it's all you have, and if you think about an RV, generally you can get water at some level, but maybe you can't. Maybe you're just using bottled water, so you can still live in your RV, be no different in your house. An RV might be easier to heat or cool. And in some cases, if you have a generator, that's all you need to do, either or, usually. And it might not be the best thing. I mean, it might be pretty rough still. But what we've seen when there's, let's say, a hurricane or a big disaster, the government can take weeks to get in there and actually start doing anything.
Right.
And generally it's days. I mean, they've got to get there. They've got to get set up. It's like moving a big old gigantic cumbersome machine, and everything's got to be done such a way and this and that. By the time you get set up, most people have already built a new house and moved on and are 40 years old. So you have to, or 40 years older, I should say. So being prepared can kind of help you in a lot of ways. And like I said, you don't have to be a prepper. Basic things will get you through this time. If you go to FEMA's website, there's a million websites about, basic preparations, a 3 to 5 day supply of food, or a 5 to 10 day, whatever you feel you need in case of emergency. So your RV now, let's say it's wintertime and it's cold out at night. Maybe during the day it's okay, but at night it gets chilly. You can run your furnace. Now it's not going to last indefinitely because you need propane. But if you do have some power, you could run electric heater. So you might have to kind of work that out in a way, time it, plan it. Can you get propane? How many days will this last me for? So you might not be able to keep that trailer at 70 degrees. It might actually have to be like 58 or something, or 62. So you might have to suffer a little bit, but it's still better than being outside. And at night when you're sleeping, you have blankets on, and
right.
That warmth still makes a difference, but it doesn't have to be as warm.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not going to be ideal is really what I'm getting at, but it's still better than nothing. It could be a place to cook meals, and maybe that's all you need is a place to cook meals. Maybe you can live in your house, but there's no power and you have all electric appliances, no generator. So you go out to the RV because more likely it has a gas range in it. I mean, you could use a barbecue just the same if you have one, but an RV might be easier. You know, you could have your stuff set up in there. You got a regular kitchen. You're not like setting up, tearing down. So think about your RV in different ways that it can be used in a situation like that, where you need some help, but help might not be on its way, and you can't rely on other people. You have to rely on yourself. It really might make the difference. And again, it might be someone else who needs to live on your property or maybe in your RV because they've lost their house or something happened to them. They're in the same storm, same whatever, but their situation became worse. So they might need to use your RV. So having some preparations in advance doesn't mean you stock it full of food and water and stuff. More like have some extra clothes in there, shoes, some bedding, extra bedding if you're in a cold area. Yeah. You know, kind of think about where you're at, the climate, and how you would adjust. But have some basic things in there, because when things really go wrong, sometimes it's hard to think of what you need. Yeah. Making plans when things are bad. I mean, it could be a blowout on the side of the road, and all of a sudden it's much harder to change a tire because you're worried about everything else. Exactly. So just planning ahead a little bit. You know, we can't go in every great detail of this, but it's certainly something you can do some research on and think about your RV, your situation. Will it work for you? Maybe it won't. Maybe it's in storage 25 miles away. It'd be a total last resort to use that. Mm-hmm. But a last resort might come in handy. Mm-hmm. So give us some thought. You know, we're not trying to tell you what to do or prep or anything like that. Just it can make life a much better in a bad situation. Exactly. All right. So there's one takeaway from this. Do it. Do it. Start thinking about it today. Put some things in action today. If you don't, then something will happen and you'll be going, gosh, I should have done that. Yeah. Because that's what we always do as humans. We always wait until it's too late. Usually. Yeah. So anyways, you can go online, do a little research on, 3 to 5 day preparations. And you don't have to spend a bundle on that either. All right. Now that's going to bring us to the next stop. All right. And now we're going to be talking about big old fancy homes on the western side of the U.S. Now, these are all historical homes. Historic. Very cool. And so they're actually, some of them aren't even that big, but they're historical. Right, right. So Alexis dug this up, how the archive dealt. So Alexis, out of these homes, I think you had 10 here on the list. I do. Which ones do you think would be really the highlights? If someone's going to plan a trip, which ones would you recommend? Well, a lot of these are in California, which makes it a little easier, even though California is pretty big. But I think, for me at least, the Hearst Castle is always one I've wanted to see, just because it's so grand. It's so amazing, and just things aren't built like this anymore, because it's got these gardens that extend out to, and just this really mix of architectural styles, because I think they had several people come in and do things on this castle. So it's kind of amazing. And then the pools outside are like fashioned after ones that were in Rome. They've got the Neptune pool and the Roman pool. So it's kind of cool. There's a lot of stories, a lot of parties, Great Gatsby style. So it'd be interesting to check out just for historical sake. I think too, the Gamble House in Pasadena is pretty cool. It's supposed to be like a masterpiece of American arts and crafts architecture, which I think is interesting. So that might be a fun one to see. It's nestled in like a really cool garden as well. So it's not just the house, it's what's outside the house, I think, is pretty neat. These amazing gardens that these people had. And then the Rawson House Museum is in Phoenix, Arizona, so not really on the coast, but that one was built in 1895. Very historical, has a lot of history there, a lot of stories there. Really provides an insight to what the lifestyle was like, the challenges of the people that lived there. So it's very interesting. Okay, those are my 3. So that was Alexis 3. So she's going to be doing some traveling. That's right. So you can see they're not all on the coast like Phoenix. But now, if there's a great big earthquake in California, like they keep saying is going to happen, and California falls off into the ocean, Phoenix might be on the coast. You'll be at least closer to the coast. You might not be on the coast, but you'll be closer, So your property values will go up. So that'd be a good thing. That'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're right on the border, you got it made. Yeah. So that probably isn't going to happen, though.
No, let's hope not.
Oh, well. So, the other thing about these houses, really is the takeaways from this. One of them would be that when you're in this, if you go to visit one of these homes, you have that area as well, because it's not just the house. Generally, these places are in an area where there's more to see than just the house.
Exactly.
That's just one of the draws to the place.
Right.
So you have that to look at, and like these will be on our website on the Smart RVer underneath the link Next Stop, and so you can look at them, and decide if you want to go there because the area has more to offer. The Lewis and Clark one, where is that one at? Where'd that go?
It is.
That's in
Astoria, Oregon.
Yeah, so that's in Oregon, and then you have like the Ranchos de Taos Plaza.
Yeah, two very cool ones.
Right, so those would be like two very well-rounded vacation destinations because of where they're at.
Exactly.
Goes into the surrounding areas, but those two would be very good.
Yes.
Turn in a week or 2 week vacation type thing.
Yep.
And, of course, that depends on how your work is, how you travel. You go for days at a time, weeks at a time, where you're at. If you're in the western part of the U.S., certainly it makes it easier to do these things. If you're in the eastern part, maybe not so desirable. But there's probably some good homes on the East Coast, too.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
You know it. You know there are.
I'm sure there's probably a lot more historical ones, that's for sure.
Yes.
More aged. Okay. So that gives you some, ideas of more travel tips, what that next stop's going to be. We're always there to help you plan that one. So go to our website, thesmartrver.com, and look at the next stop link, and they're all there. And all these next stops are there on the website, and they're generally there long before we talk about them. We just keep adding them. Sometimes we're months ahead of the podcast episode, just so you're aware of that. So it's always changing. Now we're going to get to RV Envy. And again, this is one of these RV envies that I know everybody's just dying to hear because we're going to talk about shower heads. We talk about some of the most bland things sometimes.
We really do.
But shower heads actually can kind of make a shower look nicer. If you have a shower that's been kind of bland, you're kind of looking at your RV like, I'm thinking of getting a new one because, look, all the new ones have these oil rub bronze faucets in them. I've got all chrome, kind of boring. Right. Chrome's out, Right. Bronze is in. Well, you don't have to spend $30,000, $100,000, $200,000 on a new RV. Just redo your bathroom. An RV bathroom, how hard is that? You replace the shower head. So you replace the shower head, the hose, the faucet, if you want to. And shower heads today, they're much better than some of the older ones. Now, they're still cheap shower heads, but there's like the oxygenic ones that are very nice. There's shower heads that have more water coming out of them. They're more residential style.
Yeah.
If that's what you want. Now, some people just don't even care. Let's just keep it simple, and that makes sense too. But if you're looking to change things up, a shower head, I bring that up, the shower head, the hose, because they're simple changes, but, upgrading the faucet at the same time, they're not too hard. The bath or the sink faucet in the bathroom, easy to change. You can change the hardware on the walls if you have towel hangers and stuff, put in new ones. And that's a simple little upgrade that doesn't cost a lot of money, very easy to do. You can have it done in a day, just buy your stuff and put it in. And wow, it looks new. And if, throw a new rug down, a new shower curtain. But, a lot of times you have to replace shower heads, it seems like, a little more regularly. We sell a lot of them. So maybe that's what you start your upgrade with.
There you go.
Start with the shower head and work your way around.
It's a good idea.
If you're on a budget, just do a couple things at a time. Spread it out. There's money saving tip number 4 today. Wow, you guys are saving so much money.
Yeah.
Man, it's like the stock market here.
I love it.
Yeah, maybe not that good. Well, good, bad, yeah, good. I guess it's up right now, so it's good. All right, so we've come into the end of the show here. So one final reminder, check out our YouTube channel. Go to the Smart RVer on YouTube, subscribe, watch the videos, like, share with everybody. We have videos coming out every 2 weeks and sometimes in between, but every 2 weeks. every week opposite of the show. We have a new video coming out for the Fast Tip Friday. And we drop other videos from time to time as well, like the podcast ones, which I've talked about. We're just behind on those things. Alexis, she likes to go home at night. It's ridiculous. She didn't work 24 hours a day. Yeah, pathetic, right? All right, so next week is going to be show number 164. So we're getting closer to the end of the year where we're going to have that 1 hour long episode that's going to be recorded on YouTube, not recorded live on YouTube, but upload to YouTube. We're going to do the audio as well. So hopefully you're around until the end of the year.
Hopefully we are.
And a little longer.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a great show today, covered a lot of ground, a lot of good information to help everybody become the smart RVer or the smarter RVer. So this is Eric Stark with the Smart RVer Podcast. It's just been great hanging out with you today. So if I don't see you on the road, let's connect at thesmartrver.com.